And today's topic is going to be home inspections, why you need one and why it matters. So stick around. We're going to go ahead and jump on in and get our pre-record done here.
How'd you do that?
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Thing just flung out of there.
Clock. Can you keep an eye on that for me, Lisa? 10, 10, 12, 8. My phone is plugged
You're
in.
going to do real estate at the last one.
Okay.
Same thing. Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Welcome to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for joining us this Friday morning. We're glad you're here, and if it's your first time ever catching the show, the mission of our show is to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, and build wealth. We love to talk about stuff in and around the real estate space as well, and there's a lot of ways to catch us. So not only can you stream live on the app on Money Talk 1010. You can catch us on the AM dial, 1010 AM. We're also on 99.5 HD2, that second signal, if you have HD radio in your car. And we're also on our newest addition to the Money Talk lineup, 103.1 FM. And so we've gotten some great audience in participation and like new people coming in because of the FM signal. So we're glad you're here. Our mission of our show here at Tampa Home Talk is, again, like I said, to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, build wealth. We love to talk about a lot of stuff in and around the real estate space. So you'll find that a lot of our guests will vary on everything from real estate topics to wealth to credit to everything in between. And the goal of our show is just to bring you value every single week and just make it a fantastic show and give you some information that you can use or something you can push along to someone else that may be able to as well. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our show partner for today's show, Mr. Corey Richardson with Safeline Home Inspections. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katrina.
So glad to have you. And Corey was a little nervous coming on this morning, but I think he's going to do just great. Don't you, Lisa?
I do.
Awesome.
So we're going to have a good time. We really have fun. And, you know, we hear this a lot, Corey, and I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but people say, oh, I'm nervous. And then as the show starts going through, you start having fun, and people are like, that's it? It's over? It's been an hour already? So we get that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the topic for today's show is home inspections, why you need one and why it matters.
It's a good topic.
You have a little bit to say about that, don't you?
I think so.
So let's talk about home inspections, and I'll give you my perspective on it as a real estate agent, and I think it's really important. And one of the things I love about Corey, even before he became a show partner, you know, we got together, we had lunch, we talked to figure out if we were a good match to do business, right? And that's always good in any business you're in. But the one thing that you said to me that you probably don't even remember that you said is, you know, there's a lot of agents out there that are looking for a home inspector that will brush some stuff under the rug. And you and I talked about that, and he's like, so, you know, what's your take on it? How is it? You know, and you didn't really say it like that. I forget how you asked me, but we are one of the ones that we want to know what's in that home inspection. And so sometimes when homeowners get these, they're a little bit scary, right? Because there's a whole bunch of information in there. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But the goal behind the home inspection is not to scare you, but to educate you and look for anything major, anything wrong. And from my perspective, a home inspection is an insurance policy to make sure you get a good house.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it.
And so with that being said, you know, we very much want you to find every single thing you can. Now, with that being said, you know, home inspections are not foolproof. They're not.
No.
You know, you can only see what you can see. Even though you are getting on the roof, you're crawling in the attic, if there's a crawl space, you're going underneath, you're checking all the outlets, you're doing all of these things that the typical homeowner is not going to know where to look for. You have like a checklist, right? Like a pilot. Any pilot has a great checklist.
Yes, yeah.
Before they begin takeoff, and you're going to go through that list and see anything that you can see. But there's still things behind the wall that you might not be able to see.
Yes, yeah. We actually call it a standards of practice, and I use the FOBI standards of practice, which is basically...
So what does FOBI stand for? Because that's an acronym, right?
Yeah, FOBI stands for Florida Association of Building Inspectors.
Okay, beautiful.
And
is that optional or required?
It is not required for a home inspector to be a part of an association, but almost like any industry, if you are a part of an association, it helps you to continue to be educated, helps you keep you immersed in code and standard practices that home inspectors have been doing for a long time.
There's a lot to be said for continuing education, especially when it's not required and it's something that you're doing on your own. I think that's very, very important in a home inspector that you would hire.
Absolutely.
So continue your thought, Fabi.
So FOBI, they have a minimum standards of practice, which is basically whenever you're doing a home inspection, this is the minimum that you're required to inspect, and the list is pretty extensive.
How many points are on that, out of curiosity? You ever counted them?
If I had to count, I would say over 300.
And I've looked at a million home inspections, but I don't really know how many pages they are. I would guess at least 10 minimum.
My inspections are probably a little bit on the small side, would be 20 pages.
Okay. But these are interesting, and I don't know if you brought a sample, and maybe we can get into that if we have a little time later in the show. But some of the things that I wanted to talk about is what the inspection covers. Mm-hmm. So when you get to a property, what are some of the first things that you do? And you guys are so prompt, by the way, and I just want to say thank you, because sometimes we are just, we're spread thin, we're cut a little short, and I hate being late. I really do. Much, regardless of what my husband thinks, I hate being late. So I really appreciate when you guys are on time, and I do my best to make sure that I'm there probably as well. But what are some of the first things that you do? And I know a lot of times you're waiting on the agents to show up, right?
So the first thing that I do is I just kind of walk around the property and just try to get familiar with how the rooms, how it's set up, what type of house it is. If it's a single story, 2 stories, does it have crawl space? Am I going to be able to get into the attic? Is the roof walkable? There's a whole bunch of questions that kind of go through my head, but I'm just trying to get familiar with the property. And then I start the inspection usually after the client gets there, and then I'll tell them, it's like, hey, you can either do what you want to do during the home inspection, or you can feel free to follow me around as I go through it, and I can explain you to exactly what I'm doing when I'm looking at something.
Now, some home inspectors hate that, and it drives them crazy because it does slow you guys down a little bit.
It does.
So what I recommend usually when our customers are there is I say, stay out of the home inspector's way just temporarily, let him kind of finish up, and then at the end of the home inspection, generally we're going to do a walk through the property.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely agree with that too. I figure it works both ways, because one, the clients are paying me directly, so they're paying me for my time, and my part of my job is to educate them. So as far as the time frame, I don't have a time frame of how long an inspection should take. It'll take as long as it takes until it's done. Now, if the client is there and they're in a hurry, then I would recommend, okay, then save it till the end and I'll show you everything then. But if they have all the time in the world and they want to really know the house, that's my job, is to teach them what's going on, the major concerns.
And there's some people by nature that are super curious. Like, they want to see everything you see. They want to be in there with you. And there's some things we can't let them do. Like, we can't let them get on the roof or following you in the attic or that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're cool with them following you around, checking stuff.
If I could recommend to them.
Which you can relate, because you're pretty new Tampanian, right? You were here from a couple of years ago.
I am, and we have a great city and has a lot of stuff to do and talk about. So
I would have to concur as well, for sure. So where do you start in the home inspection? Like, once you walked outside, you familiarized yourself with the property, you're kind of getting ready, the homeowner or the new buyer, new potential homeowner is there. Where do you start in the inspection?
So I start by taking pictures of the outside, and then I jump on the roof the first thing. I'll jump on the roof, try to guess how old it is, the condition of it based off of, what material it is, whether if it's asphalt shingles or if it's clay tile, or I'll check the flashings. I check for
the open pipes, because rodents like to chew on the top of those.
Yeah, vent pipes.
All that sort of stuff.
Yes.
It's interesting because, when you're somebody like me, you've been doing this forever. You've been to a million home inspections. We know some of the stuff y'all are going to find. And so I'll see it when I'm walking through a property, and I'll just point it out. And there's a lot of stuff you find that I don't see because I'm not getting on the roof and crawling in the attic and all that kind of stuff. But, so talking about the roof, some of the things you look for are curling shingles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Soft spots in the roof.
Yeah, curling shingles, cracked shingles, soft spots on the roof. You can also tell the age of the roof based off of how many granulars are still present on the roof, which granulars are the little fine asphalt beads that kind of protect the roof from UV light. And as the roof gets older, those granulars will Eventually they'll fall off or they'll roll off or be washed away.
And the weather, I think, has a lot to do with why our roofs don't last so long, to your point, with the
That's
water
exactly
and
right.
the sun.
And the sun. And so as those granulars wear away, it's going to cause your roof to wear out. It's going to cause it to leak. So it's amazing the difference between a new roof and like a used roof or an older roof.
Mm-hmm.
When I was first getting started, I was trying to figure out, I was like, how am I going to tell the difference? And after you've done a few, it's pretty easy to see, when a roof is old and it needs to be replaced or a roof is pretty new.
So what's your background? What did you do before home inspections, and how long have you been doing this?
So before home inspections, I actually, my parents own a construction company up in North Carolina. And I was part of the project management team. And so I helped them. They were house flippers, and so I helped them to gut houses and to rebuild them, replacing kitchens, bathrooms, electrical, plumbing, and stuff like that.
So you've got that construction contractor background to begin with. We're going to take a break right there, Corey. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We're with Corey Richardson today of Safeline Home Inspections. He's one of our partners, and we're talking all about home inspections, why you need one, why it matters. And I was asking about his background, and we'll continue that conversation when we come back in just a moment.
So what do you think? Not that bad, huh?
Not that bad. I definitely tripped up a little
Just
bit.
loosen up and talk to me and forget about the mic. I know it's kind of in your face, but just forget about it.
Yeah. The question of what's the process in the home inspection is fine, but there's a lot that kind of I go on to.
Let's dive into that because
No,
that's
go
what we're
ahead.
talking about, and it's stories are good. Anything like that's fine.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Do you have any good stories with like you guys were just on topic with? Someone that.
Will you
What-
give me a
that was-
2 and a 1 minute as well when we're chatting?
Yeah, I did do. That's what
I
that
saw
was.
2. Yeah, we
okay,
do 1
and then
minute
you
2.
wanted one.
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Ready?
Go.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Thank you for sticking with us through the break. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. If it's your first time catching the show, you're just tuning in. We're talking with Corey Richardson today of Safeline Home Inspections, and we're talking about home inspections and why you need one and why it matters and what you find and where you look for and all that stuff. So I was asking you before the break how you got started doing home inspections, because you were saying before that I wasn't sure how to tell if it was an old roof or a new roof, but you've been around construction your whole life.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So part of I guess the question, I've been in around construction my whole life. Yeah, and so
Did you start home inspections when you moved here to Tampa Bay?
I did not. So I worked for a general contractor, Hawkeye Construction, and they did a lot of renovations to the Hooters and Squirrel and Burgers, and learned a lot there as well. But working commercial construction and doing residential construction is a completely it's a different animal altogether.
What are some of the certifications to be a home inspector?
Certifications to be a home inspector.
Like they require state licensing now,
They do require state licensing. They require,
which this is pretty new. They didn't have this always.
I believe it was required. I believe it was 2010 where
Okay.
they first required licensing for home inspectors, and they also require insurance. And that's pretty much the only licenses.
Which that's really important. You want the guy climbing around on your roof to have insurance for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I actually have licensing, general liability, professional liability, and I am bonded too.
Perfect. So going back to the roof thing, I know we talk about shingle roofs a lot because that's the most common type that we have here. But what about, I'd like to talk about the lifetime metal roofs and also the tile roofs, because there's times when it's not safe to walk on those tile roofs and you can actually do more damage than good when you're up there trying to do an inspection.
That's absolutely true.
And so talk about that. Like, how do you know when it's okay to walk on the roof and when it's not?
Typically, I don't walk on tile roofs for that purposes. You can get away with walking on a tile roof if you know exactly where to step, and you'll have to kind of judge it based off of the slope, condition, what type of tile it is. If it's concrete tile, that's one thing. It's a lot heavier. It's probably less likely for something to happen if you walk on it, as opposed to
The clay tiles break super
the clay
easy.
tiles where it breaks super easy. So I would never walk on a clay tile roof.
So what about the metal roofs? Like, what's your thought on those? Because really, these are promoted as lifetime metal roofs. And in my experience, most of the time they are. Like, sometimes they can get ugly with rust and that sort of stuff.
So yeah, the problem that happens with the metal roofs is usually the fasteners. Usually the fasteners, seals on the fasteners end up wearing out because it's just rubber most of the time, and that will be where your leak starts to happen. It's not going to be the metal itself; it's going to be the fasteners. So the roof that doesn't have the exposed fasteners will last a lot longer than the ones that have the ones with the screws that you can see.
So what about some of these, like for example, my oldest son, he bought them on the other side of Orlando, and his roof actually, there's no attic access at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do in that particular instance when there's no attic access and you can't, there's no attic, there's no way to access it?
I mean, the reality is you are limited on what you can inspect. I will still look, get on the top. You know, a lot of times you can feel if there's soft spots by how you walk on it. Never fallen through a roof before,
my goodness,
which is a good thing. But I have stepped on a few questionable areas, and when you feel a weak spot on a roof, you'll know, and then more than likely there'll be a leak there. And the other key to it is if you're walking on the inside of the house and you look up and you see yellow stains on the roof, on the ceilings, more than likely that's a pretty good indicator that the roof has a sufficient leak.
Now, there's ways to test those, right, from the inside to test whether they're new versus old, or using a moisture meter, that sort of stuff on it, or using infrared, thermal?
So I have a moisture meter that I check, and that'll give you a pretty good indication on whether if it's an active leak or I would say maybe a passive leak, something that has been fixed before and maybe they just didn't paint the ceiling, maybe they didn't replace the section of drywall that's been water damaged previously. It's probably, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't necessarily give you all of the information. But yeah, it will help you to determine whether if it's leaking now or not.
So we're starting with the roof, and then we go inside. Do you go straight to the attic at that point, or you save that for last?
No, I try to hit the attics in the morning because it's a lot cooler. I've been in the attic.
Summer months.
I've been in the attics at 3, 5 o'clock, and they're pretty brutal. So if I get to the inspection early in the morning, I'll hit the roof, and then I'll try to jump into the attic right away. Then again, it's the same thing. I'm looking for structural, so I'll be looking at the trusses. I'll be looking at the underside of the roof decking material for black spots, which is usually an indication of a water leak. I'll be looking for cut trusses. Sometimes homeowners will get in the attic and they'll try to be clearing out some extra storage space to store boxes, and so they'll just start cutting the trusses to try to make room for something.
So let's talk about that from a construction standpoint, because that's kind of a big deal. Like you're saying it like, oh yeah, let's cut the trusses, but really that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. It's something that I don't like seeing. It's never a good idea to cut a truss. These trusses are designed by engineers to support certain loads, and whenever you cut out the bracings in those trusses, you're basically weakening the integrity of the truss itself.
You're compromising the entire structure. And if you're getting a government loan, like an FHA or a VA or a USDA loan, when the appraiser comes out to do their visual inspection, one of the things they have to look at is in the attic. And so they don't do a thorough inspection like you do.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do a 360 turn and take some photos. And if they see any notches or cutouts or anything like what you're talking about in the trusses,
mm-hmm.
they will call for a certified, and to basically re-support that structure to make sure that it doesn't compromise the integrity of the home.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's really, really important, and it's interesting that you say that, because you would think someone would not actually do that. And the other thing we see too, like with regards to homeowner maintenance, is don't pressure wash your roof. Like I've seen people do that.
My
no.
HOA sent me a letter a couple weeks ago saying that I have mildew stains on my roof and it needs to be pressure washed. And I sent them a letter back.
Are
I was
you
like,
kidding me?
No, I am serious. I sent them a letter back and said that, hey, if I pressure wash my roof, not only could I potentially lose the warranty on the shingles, but it's actually going to cause my roof to wear out a lot faster.
Yeah, you've taken, theoretically, I would say, and this is my guesstimate, you tell me if I'm right, 1 to 2 years off that roof, depending on how it's pressure washed?
It's very, very possible. If you use the pressure, you can just blast the shingles right off of it if you use too much pressure. Not to mention you're going to be walking on the roof.
That is such a liability for your HOA. I can't even believe they told you that.
They did.
Like, we're not going to throw them under the bus, but that is like, I can't even believe their attorneys let them send that out. Like,
and the worst part about it is, that everyone else in my neighborhood got that same letter. Their roof, I've seen it. So
did you say anything? I would so have to say something.
Don't do it. At this point, what I'm going to say, he's already up on the roof. probably already paid the person. So.
Oh my gosh. So Nextdoor, I love Nextdoor. It's a neighborhood site, and a lot of neighbors have chatter there. It's kind of like the social neighbor networking site, but it's really good because people watch out for each other. You know, I have teenagers, so it's come in really handy in trying to keep them under control. And at least it takes a village to raise your children these days, and it's absolutely the truth. So. Hopping back into the home inspections, when you go inside, what are some of the next things that you do once you've looked at the roof, once you've looked at the attic? What's the next thing you're going for?
Probably going to be the air conditioning, the heating and cooling systems of the house. Because I'm in the attic, a lot of our houses in Florida have the furnace and stuff is going to be in the attic. So I'll be checking that out as well when I'm doing the attic inspection, making sure the ductwork is intact. Usually the furnace is up there too, so I'll take a look at that, make sure the condensate drain lines are working correctly, that they are there.
That's a big deal, because if you get a backup, which can happen very easily with this humid climate that we have, you know, you don't want that water to go into the house, because then you're like, oh, do I have a roof leak? What is it? You don't know.
Yep, that's very true.
And so that's definitely an excellent point. And so the home inspections are interesting, and we're going to chat about those. We're going to take a break shortly, but when we come back, we're going to talk about like just what the layout of those are and how they vary a little bit from one section to the next, and what's a red flag and what isn't, because it looks kind of scary, right? Like I would say, how many freaked out calls do you get from buyers after the inspection's done?
Usually with my clients, I don't get any freaked out.
Because you've already talked about how they might
I've already
look a little
talked to
freaky.
them, so they already have a pretty good understanding of what's going on.
And so after you look at some of those major components, what's next? Do you go into the hot water heater?
Hot water tank, I will inspect that, yeah. But typically after the attic inspection, I will jump to the electrical.
Okay. And that's a big deal here in Florida. You know, we're seeing a lot of these older homes have these boxes that are now fire hazards, and you can't even get insurance if you have some of these certain boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Federal Pacific is one of them.
Yep. Sylvania.
Certain ones. There's another one with a Z. I can't think of the name.
Zinsco.
That's it. And a few more. I know there's one there listed like 5, I think.
There are 5.
Okay. So we'll tell you the other 2 maybe when we come back, when you listen to Tampa Home Talk. Stick around. We have to take a break for real. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Great, good stuff.
See, I'm trying to think of what the other 5 are. If I see it,
We can Google it real
comes
quick.
up.
Yeah, if you see it, you know. Me too.
But it's
Do you want me
like
to Google something for you?
Yeah.
Okay, what am I Googling?
Zinsco, Sylvania.
Zinsco, so what am I?
Federal Pacific, banned electrical boxes.
I want to
Companies.
say Challenger. Challenger is one of them. What is the other one?
Banned electrical box companies?
Yeah.
Okay. Federal Pacific.
Stablock. That's the Federal Pacific, I'm pretty sure.
Angie's the best to say. Federal Pacific is a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
That's probably the biggest one. That's the red flag.
Or outdated, unsafe electrical panels.
You don't have an inspection report with you, do you?
No, I don't.
Can you pull one up on your phone?
Um,
Like, do you have one handy? Is there a list or no? Can you? Is there?
I'm looking, honey.
yeah, I can't.
Do you have one on your website?
I don't have it on my website,
Okay.
but I could add it. It's a
Yeah.
Good, that's a good.
We'll promote it later. We'll put Tampa Home Talk and then share it. And
Mhm.
it's a good blog post for sure.
All right. So now you want a home inspection list? What you asked for?
Yeah, just an inspection. Like, pull up one of Corey's.
Home inspection checklist for buyers.
Oh, pull up one of my inspections.
He
Yeah,
doesn't have one.
handy.
Where do you want me to go?
If you go into my, I might be able to do it this way. I do have them saved on my Google.
Oh, there you go. Just pull it up. I just want to run through it and look at it. And then we'll talk about, you know how you flag stuff a little differently?
Mm-hmm.
Like safety hazard versus just something that needs attention versus a maintenance issue.
I love the pictures I got of you guys in the studio. This is awesome.
I like how, oh, look at that. Looks great.
That is now Tampa
So
Home
I don't
Talk's
even use this.
profile picture. I'm gonna start doing that every week. Whoever's
change
on our
it? That's a
show,
good
put
idea.
their picture there.
If you can get it a week in advance.
Well, I'll use a show card or something.
Where's my folders? Which name is this? Oh, that's why. I've got 4 different emails. Each one has different stuff in it.
Yeah, any inspection's fine.
No connection. Retry.
Yeah, there's signal.
Yeah, I don't have any signal.
You can connect to Wi-Fi if you want to.
It's still Wi-Fi.
It's the big stick too.
Big Stick
Yeah.
2?
Mhm.
Secured? You have
Mhm.
the password?
Yeah. I got the con.
Hey Roxanne, just making sure everything's recording okay. So here's the picture.
Con, see it? Don't ask, I didn't create it.
Hey Roxanne, just making sure. She left me in charge. She's clipping my wings.
Kevin Taylor. Must be an old one.
It doesn't matter. The format's all the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready, we're gonna do this. This is our 12, and then the last 8, she's gonna do her real estate stuff. That's where she promotes the partners and talks about what properties and whatnot she has. Okay.
Okay.
So we're at 12 minutes for the rest of your segments.
Let's roll.
We're good. All right. Here we
It's
go.
gonna pull up. Just let it run and then we'll go.
All right. Go ahead.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thank you so much for sticking around. We're glad that you're here. If you're just now catching us, we're available on 1010 AM, 99.5 HD2, and also 103.1 FM. Thank you to some of our new listeners over there. We've gotten some FM listeners hop on over into Talk Radio, Corey, because we've added that FM channel. It's exciting, isn't it?
That's awesome, yeah.
So today's show is all about home inspections, why you need one, why it matters, what kind of stuff can you find in there, and all of that sort of stuff. And so before the break, we were actually talking about some of those faulty electrical